When a billionaire father discovers his struggling daughter is being secretly taught by a homeless girl on school grounds, his first instinct is control. Remove the distraction, protect his child. But he pauses, he watches. And in staying, he learns a truth that no amount of wealth had ever taught him. Before we begin, comment below where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that like button. Daniel Whitmore's hand rested on his briefcase as he stepped onto the grounds of Ashford Academy. He hadn't planned to come. Board meetings didn't reschedule themselves, and the quarterly call started in 40 minutes. But Emily's counselor had used the word concerning 3 times in one voicemail. He expected to find his daughter in the administrative building, sitting across from Mrs. Chen. Instead, he found her on the east lawn, sitting in the grass beside a girl who didn't belong there. Daniel stopped 30 feet away, partially hidden by the old oak. The girl, 12, maybe younger, wore clothes washed too many times, colors faded to near uniformity. No shoes. But it wasn't the bare feet that made him pause, it was how Emily looked at her. His daughter, anxious Emily, who erased her homework 3 times before turning it in, who second-guessed every answer, sat completely still. No fidgeting, no phone checking, no tension in her shoulders. The barefoot girl drew something in the dirt with a stick. Circles. Lines connecting them. Speaking too quietly to hear, but Emily nodded, understanding. Daniel's instinct was immediate: intervene, investigate, protect. But the calm expression on his daughter's face stopped him. Lena Carter woke to crying from the next room. She stayed still, listening to determine what kind of day it would be. The soft crying meant medication and breakfast, and maybe her mother would get out of bed. The loud kind meant Lena would handle everything alone. This was the soft kind. Lena's feet hit the cold floor. The apartment was always cold in the mornings, but complaining about it didn't make the landlord fix the heating any faster. In the kitchen, she found the oatmeal. The cheap kind that came in the large cylinder, plain and filling. She added water, set it to heat, and checked the calendar on the wall. Thursday. The community center served lunch on Thursdays, which meant she could skip breakfast and save the oatmeal for tomorrow. Her mother appeared in the doorway, wrapped in the blanket from the couch. Ruth Carter looked better than yesterday. Her hair was brushed. Her eyes were focused. "You're up early," Ruth said quietly. "School starts at 8. Lena had never actually attended Ashford Academy, but she knew their schedule better than most of their students. "Lena." Her mother's voice carried that particular weight that meant a conversation Lena didn't want to have. "You can't keep going there. If they catch you." "They won't. If they do, they'll call." "They won't," Lena repeated, firmer this time. She couldn't afford for her mother to spiral. Not today. Not when things were finally stable. Ruth studied her daughter for a long moment. Then nodded. She understood. She always understood, on her good days, that Lena needed this. Needed to learn. Needed to feel like she was moving towards something instead of just surviving. The oatmeal bubbled. Lena poured it into a bowl, added the last of the honey, and set it in front of her mother. "Eat," she said. "I'll be back by 3. Emily Whitmore woke to Vivaldi playing from her phone, her morning already structured by the calendar app her father insisted she use. Wake up, breakfast, review notes for quiz, driver arrives. She looked at the schedule and felt the familiar tightness in her chest. The quiz. Pre-algebra. She'd studied for 3 hours yesterday with her tutor, Mr. Patterson, who had a PhD in mathematics and the patience of someone paid $150 an hour to have patience. He'd explained the concepts slowly, carefully, using the approved curriculum methods. She still didn't understand. Emily sat up, reached for her notebook, and looked at the practice problems Mr. Patterson had assigned. Her stomach hurt. She erased her first answer. Tried again, erased it. By the third erasure, the paper was smudged and her eyes burned. Her phone buzzed, a text from her father, "Good luck on your quiz today. You've got this." She didn't respond. Daniel had learned to read his daughter's silences. The silence this morning wasn't defiance. It was defeat. He sat in his home office, the one with the view of Lake Michigan that had been featured in Architectural Digest, and stared at Emily's last report card. The grades had been slipping for 2 semesters. He'd hired the best tutors. Bought the supplemental materials. Offered rewards for improvement. Nothing worked. His phone rang. The board. He let it go to voicemail. Something was wrong with his daughter, and despite all his resources, all his ability to solve problems and deploy solutions, he couldn't fix this. The thought sat in his chest like a stone. Lena watched the clock on the school building and waited for lunch period. She'd been coming to Ashford Academy for 6 weeks now. Not inside, she wasn't stupid. She had found the perfect spots where she could listen to lessons without being seen. The AP biology class met in the room closest to the east lawn. If she sat under the window, she could hear most of the lesson. The geometry teacher liked to hold review sessions outside when the weather was nice. The English class sometimes did reading circles under the trees. Lena learned where to sit, when to arrive, how to look busy so no one questioned her presence. She'd been invisible most of her life. It was easy to stay that way. Today, she sat in her usual spot near the fountain, a textbook open in her lap. This one she'd found in the library's free box, 3 years out of date but still useful. She was working through chapter 12, teaching herself about fractions and ratios, when a shadow fell across the page. "You're here again." Lena looked up. The girl from the C building. The one who always sat alone during lunch, who carried her backpack like it weighed 100 pounds. "I'm just reading," Lena said carefully. "Everyone says you don't go here." The girl didn't sound accusatory. "Just curious." "I don't." "Then why do you come?" Lena considered lying. Considered leaving. Instead, she answered honestly. "To learn." The girl stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, she sat down. "I'm Emily." "Lena." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Emily said, very quietly, "I have a quiz next period and I don't understand anything." Lena looked at her, the expensive uniform, the designer backpack, the tension in her shoulders that said she had everything and it wasn't enough. "What don't you understand?" Lena asked. That was how it started. Emily showed her the practice problems. Lena looked at them, thought for a moment, then picked up a stick and started drawing in the dirt. "Okay," Lena said. "Forget the formulas for a second. Let's just think about what's actually happening." She drew 2 circles. "You have this much pizza. You want to share it with this many people. What does each person get?" Emily stared at the dirt drawing. "Half. Right. That's division. That's all it is. Now, what if you had 3 pizzas and 4 people? 3/4. Each person gets 3/4. See? You already know this. You just don't know that you know it." Emily blinked. Something clicked in her brain, some connection that all of Mr. Patterson's careful explanations had failed to make. "Wait," she said. "So when the problem says divide these fractions, it's just asking how much each person gets?" "Exactly." Emily stared at her practice problems. Then back at Lena. Then back at the problems. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I understand." The bell rang. Lunch was over. Emily stood, gathering her things. Then she paused. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Lena nodded. "Okay," Emily said. "Okay. Thank you." She ran back toward the building, and Lena watched her go. Daniel's driver dropped him at Ashford Academy just as the dismissal bell rang. He'd rearranged the board call, much to everyone's surprise. He needed to meet with Mrs. Chen, to discuss whatever was concerning enough to warrant 3 uses of the word concerning. But as he walked toward the administrative building, he saw her again. The barefoot girl. She was leaving the grounds, walking toward the public bus stop beyond the gate. Daniel watched her pause at the corner, checking traffic with the particular wariness of someone who'd learned to be careful. She carried nothing. No backpack. No phone. Just a small notebook tucked under her arm. Mr. Whitmore. He turned. Mrs. Chen stood in the doorway of the admin building, professional smile in place. "Thank you for coming on short notice," she said. "Shall we talk about Emily?" Daniel glanced back at the bus stop. The girl was gone. "Yes," he said. "Let's talk about Emily." "Emily is a bright girl," Mrs. Chen began, and Daniel waited for the "but." "But she's struggling. Her quiz scores have improved this week, which is encouraging, but her overall confidence remains low. She's hesitant to participate in class. Reluctant to ask questions." Daniel nodded. He'd heard variations of this speech before. "Her tutor says she knows the material during their sessions but freezes during tests," Mrs. Chen continued. "We're wondering if there might be an anxiety component. Perhaps she would benefit from additional support." "Her quiz scores improved?" Daniel interrupted. Mrs. Chen blinked at the interruption. "Yes. This week. Significantly, actually. She got an A on her pre-algebra quiz today. First A she's earned in that class all semester." Daniel sat very still. "When did this start?" "The improvement?" "This week. Very suddenly, actually." Her teacher noted that Emily seemed more confident. "Answered questions in class for the first time all year." "This week." The same week Daniel had first noticed the barefoot girl sitting with his daughter on the lawn. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen," Daniel said, standing. "I'll talk to Emily about the anxiety component. But I think she might be finding her footing." Lena woke to silence. Bad sign. She got up, checked her mother's room. Ruth was awake but staring at the ceiling, eyes unfocused. "Mom?" Lena said softly. No response. This was the other kind of day. The kind where her mother went somewhere Lena couldn't follow, somewhere inside her own head where the thoughts moved too fast or too slow and nothing Lena said could reach her. Lena got the pills, the water, the oatmeal. She set them on the nightstand. "I'll be back at 3, she said, even though her mother wouldn't remember. She left the apartment before she could let herself feel anything about it. Emily found Lena in their usual spot, but something was different. The girl sat very still, staring at nothing. "Hey," Emily said, sitting down beside her. Lena blinked, came back from wherever she'd been. "Hey. You okay?" "I'm fine." The answer was automatic, practiced. The kind of fine that meant nothing was fine but asking more questions wouldn't help. Emily recognized that kind of fine. She'd said it herself dozens of times. "I got an A on my quiz," Emily offered. "The one you helped me with." Lena's expression softened. "That's good. It's the first A I've gotten in math since 4th grade." Emily pulled out her lunch, a sandwich from the expensive deli near her house, chips, fruit, cookies. "My dad almost cried. In a good way, I think." She opened the sandwich, ate half, then noticed Lena watching. Emily stopped mid-bite. "Have you eaten?" "I'm fine," Lena said again. Emily looked at the sandwich, then at Lena, then back at the sandwich. She split it in half, wrapped one part in the paper, and held it out. Lena hesitated. Pride and hunger warred on her face. Hunger won. She took the sandwich. "Thank you." They ate in silence for a moment. Then Emily said, "Want to help me study for history? I'm terrible at remembering dates." Dates are easy, Lena said. You just need to connect them to something you already know. Give me your notes. Daniel Whitmore had learned something about his daughter in the past week. She was a terrible liar. How's school? He'd asked at dinner the night before. Good. Just good. Better, actually. I'm understanding things more. Your tutor? He asked. Emily had hesitated. Just a fraction of a second, but Daniel had spent 20 years reading people across negotiating tables. Yeah, she'd said. Mr. Patterson is really helpful. His daughter was lying to him. So on Thursday afternoon, Daniel did something he'd never done before. He left work before noon, drove to Ashford Academy, and parked where he could see the east lawn. He waited. At 11:50, students began spilling out for lunch. He spotted Emily immediately, heading toward the same oak tree. And there, sitting in the grass, was the barefoot girl. His daughter sat down beside her. They talked, laughed. The girl pulled out a notebook, started explaining something. Emily listened with that same complete attention Daniel had noticed before. Then Emily pulled out her lunch, split her sandwich, and handed half to the girl without hesitation. Without ceremony. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. The barefoot girl took it. Ate it quickly, like someone who'd learned not to waste food. Daniel's chest tightened. His daughter was being tutored by a hungry girl who didn't attend the school. A girl who came here to learn by listening through windows. Who helped Emily in a way a PhD tutor couldn't. He sat in his car for the entire 35-minute lunch period, watching. When the bell rang, Emily went back to class. The girl stayed a moment longer, then gathered her things and walked toward the bus stop. Daniel followed her. The bus took her to the south side. The girl got off at a stop near a street Daniel recognized from charity reports his foundation received. High poverty rate, high crime, high need. The girl walked 3 blocks, checked over her shoulder twice, trained vigilance, not paranoia, then entered a building that had given up on dignity. Daniel parked. Waited. Debated. Then he got out of the car and followed her inside. The elevator was broken. The stairs smelled like cooking oil and mildew. 3rd floor, he'd seen her turn. He climbed slowly, giving her time, not wanting to scare her. The door to 3C was slightly ajar. He could hear voices inside. I'm home, the girl, Lena, was saying. Mom. Did you take your medication? A woman's voice, thick and uncertain, I don't remember. It's okay. Let's take it now, okay? I brought crackers from school. You shouldn't steal, Lena. I didn't steal. Someone gave them to me. Daniel knocked softly. The voices stopped. Footsteps. The door opened wider. Lena looked up at him, and recognition flashed across her face. She'd seen him before, he realized. Watching from a distance. She knew who he was. Mr. Whitmore, she said, and her voice was calm but her hand gripped the doorframe tightly. Hello, Lena. He kept his voice gentle. Non-threatening. I'm Emily's father. Could we talk? The apartment was small. Smaller than his office. But clean. Books stacked against one wall, library discards with cracked spines. A card table served as dining surface and homework desk. I see you've been teaching my daughter, Daniel said. She's also learning, Daniel continued. Really learning. Not just memorizing. Emily's smart, Lena said. She just thinks she's not. People told her she was struggling so many times she started believing it. And you don't think she's struggling? Everyone struggles. She just needed someone to explain things in a way that made sense to her. Lena met his eyes directly. Your tutors explain things the way they learn them. I explain things the way Emily needs to hear them. That's all. Daniel studied this girl who spoke with the directness of someone who'd learned that honesty was simpler than deception. "Why do you come to Ashford?" he asked. "To learn. You could go to the public school. It's closer to here." "I'm not enrolled anywhere." Lena's voice remained steady. "Matter of fact. We moved a lot. Paperwork got lost. My mom got sick. Things fell through the cracks." "Lena?" A voice called from the bedroom. "Weak. Worried. Who's there?" Lena tensed. "Just someone from the school, Mom." "It's okay. Can I meet your mom?" Daniel asked quietly. "Why?" "Because I'd like to understand." Lena searched his face for a long moment. Then nodded. Ruth Carter sat in the apartment's only armchair, wrapped in a blanket despite the stuffiness. She was maybe 40 but looked 60, with the particular stillness of someone who'd learned that movement sometimes brought pain. Her eyes were Lena's eyes, sharp, assessing. "Mr. Whitmore," she said. Her voice was steadier than Daniel expected. "Lena said you wanted to talk." "Yes, ma'am." Daniel found himself unconsciously straightening, like he was the one being evaluated. "Your daughter has been helping mine. With school. I wanted to thank you. And ask why we're not in the system," Ruth said. "Not accusing. Just stating the obvious." Daniel nodded. Ruth was quiet for a moment. "Then, I have bipolar disorder. Type 2. I was managing it fine, had a job, an apartment, had Lena in a good school. Then my insurance changed. Couldn't afford my medication. Missed work. Lost the job. Lost the insurance. Lost the apartment." She recited it without emotion, like facts from someone else's life. "Tried to get help. System's complicated when you're broke. Waited 4 months for an intake appointment. By then, we'd fallen too far. Lena got lost in the shuffle. Different school districts, no permanent address. I kept meaning to fix it. Mom tried," Lena said firmly. "She got us stable. We have this place. She takes her medication when she can afford it." Daniel did the math in his head. Bipolar medication, generic versions, maybe $100 to $200 a month without insurance. An impossible amount when you're choosing between medicine and rent. "Lena," Ruth continued, "is the smartest person I've ever known. She reads medical journals for fun. Taught herself pre-calculus from a library book. She deserves better than this." "I know," Daniel said. "So why are you here?" Ruth asked. "To report us? To make sure Lena stops sneaking onto your daughter's school?" "No." Daniel surprised himself with the certainty in his voice. "I'm here because my daughter is thriving for the first time in a year, and it's because of Lena. I'm here because I want to help. If you'll let me." Ruth laughed, but it wasn't bitter. "Just tired. Men like you don't help people like us. You write checks to feel good, then move on." "You're right," Daniel said. "That's exactly what I usually do. But this is different." "Why?" It was the question Daniel had been asking himself since he'd watched Emily split her sandwich without thinking. "Because my daughter is failing at a $50,000 a year school where she has every advantage. Your daughter is teaching her, for free, in the grass, and it's working." He paused. "That tells me I've been measuring the wrong things." The room was silent except for the traffic noise from outside. Then Ruth said, quietly, "What kind of help?" Daniel didn't promise miracles. Didn't make grand speeches. He was a problem solver, and this was a problem with specific components. "I can make calls," Daniel said. "Connect you with resources. My foundation works with several mental health organizations. I can get you an appointment with a psychiatrist, a good one, by next week." "Can't afford it," Ruth said flatly. "The foundation covers it." That's what the money's for. And Lena? Ashford has a scholarship program. Full ride for exceptional students. I think Lena qualifies. Lena, who'd been silent through this entire conversation, finally spoke. Why would they accept me? I haven't been in school for 2 years. Because you taught yourself pre-calculus from a library book, Daniel said. Because you can explain complex concepts better than teachers with master's degrees. Because you're exactly the kind of student they claim they want. He paused. And because I'm on the board, and I will advocate for you. Ruth looked at her daughter. Some silent communication passed between them. If we do this, Ruth said carefully, if we take your help, what happens if I have a bad episode? What happens if I can't hold it together? Then we adjust, Daniel said. There's no clause that says you have to be perfect. There's just a commitment to keep trying. Ruth's eyes filled with tears. She looked away, embarrassed. When do we start? Lena asked. Emily Whitmore found her father in the kitchen, making coffee. Dad? Why are you still here? Don't you have that meeting? Cancelled it, Daniel said, pouring a second cup. Wanted to talk to you about something. Emily tensed. The last time her father wanted to talk about something, it was to tell her he'd hired another tutor. I know about Lena, Daniel said. Emily's stomach dropped. Dad, she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just teaching you, Daniel interrupted. And doing a better job than anyone I've paid. Emily stopped mid-panic. What? I met her yesterday. Met her mom. We talked. Daniel sat down at the counter. She's enrolling at Ashford. Full scholarship. Starts Monday. Are you serious? Completely. Emily stared at her father like she'd never seen him before. You're letting her go to my school. I'm making sure she gets the education she deserves. There's a difference. But Emily stopped. Struggled with the words. She doesn't have anything, Dad. People are going to be mean. Probably, Daniel agreed. Are you going to be mean? No. Of course not. I just meant. I know what you meant. And you're right. But Lena's tougher than most kids who've had everything handed to them. I think she'll be fine. He paused. She could probably use a friend, though. Emily grabbed her phone. I need to text her. Wait, does she have a phone? Not yet. But she will by Monday. Emily looked at her father. Who are you and what did you do with my dad? Daniel laughed, surprising them both. I'm still figuring that out. Lena Carter stood outside Ashford Academy in clothes that fit, shoes that weren't borrowed, and holding a backpack that Emily's father had said was just standard school supplies, nothing special, except it was filled with notebooks and pens and a calculator and everything else Lena had only seen from outside windows. Her mother had taken her medication that morning. Had smiled. Had said, I'm proud of you, baby. Lena was terrified. Lena. Emily appeared from a car, not a driver, just her dad's regular car, and ran toward her. You're here. You're actually here. I'm here, Lena confirmed. Okay, so first period is English, but we have the same lunch period, and there's this girl Madison who's really nice, and, Emily was talking fast, nervous excited. Are you okay? You look kind of pale. I've never been inside a classroom, Lena admitted. Not since 4th grade. Emily grabbed her hand. Then it's a good thing you've been listening through windows for practice. Come on. I'll show you where everything is. They walked toward the entrance together. Daniel watched from his car. Resisted the urge to follow, to supervise, to control the variables. This wasn't his moment. It was theirs. His phone buzzed. The board. Again. He looked at it. Then at the two girls disappearing through the school entrance. The phone went back in his pocket. Ruth Carter sat in Dr. Morrison's office, trying not to fidget. The psychiatrist was younger than she expected, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that Ruth appreciated. "The medication combination is working well," Dr. Morrison said. "Your mood tracking shows significant stabilization. How are you feeling?" "Better," Ruth said. And it was true. The fog had lifted. The world had sharp edges again. More like myself. Good. Let's keep the dosage consistent for another month, then reassess. Dr. Morrison made a note. "How's Lena adjusting to school?" "She loves it. Top of her class already, apparently." There was a soft knock on the door. Dr. Morrison's assistant peeked in. "Mrs. Carter. There's someone here to see you." Ruth tensed. "Who?" Daniel Whitmore appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. "Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to check in. See how things were going." Ruth glanced at Dr. Morrison, who nodded and excused herself. When they were alone, Ruth said, "You don't have to keep checking on us." "I know." Daniel sat in the chair Dr. Morrison had vacated. "But I'm going to anyway." "Why?" Ruth asked. It was the question she kept asking. "You've done enough. More than enough. Why keep showing up?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Then, 6 years ago, my wife died. Car accident. Emily was 6. I responded by working more. Building more. Measuring success in things I could control: revenue, growth, properties. I told myself I was providing for Emily. Securing her future." He looked at his hands. "I was hiding. I was measuring the wrong things because the right things, being present, being emotionally available, were too hard. I failed my daughter. And I didn't even realize it until Lena showed me what Emily actually needed." Ruth said nothing. They sat in silence. Then Ruth said, "I'm starting a job next week. Part-time at the library. One of your foundation people connected me." "That's great. It means I can start paying you back. For the medical bills. The school fees." "Ruth. I need to pay you back," Ruth said firmly. "Not all of it. I know I can't. But something. I need to contribute." Daniel recognized the pride in her voice. The same pride he'd heard from Lena. "Okay," he agreed. "We'll work something out." 6 weeks later. Emily Whitmore stood in front of her AP biology class, presenting her project on neural pathways. Lena sat in the front row, grinning. They'd become inseparable. Study partners. Lunch companions. Sisters. And so, Emily concluded, the synaptic connection strengthened through repeated use, which is why practice actually does make perfect. Or at least makes better. Any questions? Mr. Harmon, the biology teacher, nodded approvingly. "Excellent work, Emily. I particularly liked how you broke down the complex processes into accessible language. Very clear." "Lena helped me with that part," Emily said. "She's good at making complicated things simple." The class turned to look at Lena, who turned red. After class, Emily grabbed her bag. "Want to come over tonight? Dad's ordering Thai food and he said you could bring your mom if she wants." Lena hesitated. Her mother had been stable, but inviting her into someone else's space still felt risky. What if she had an episode? What if she embarrassed Lena? Then she replied, "Sure." A few years later. Lena Carter stood at the front of Ashford Academy's auditorium, wearing the blue sash that marked her as valedictorian. Emily sat in the front row, grinning so wide her face hurt. Ruth sat beside Daniel, both of them trying not to cry. "When I started at this school," Lena said into the microphone, "I didn't think I belonged here. I'd spent 2 years learning through windows, convinced that education was something that happened to other people. People with resources, people with stability, people with advantages I didn't have. She paused, found Emily in the crowd. But someone saw me differently. Someone sat down beside me and asked for help, even though she had every advantage and I had none. And in teaching her, I learned something: knowledge isn't about where you come from. It's about curiosity, persistence, the courage to admit when you don't understand and the patience to explain until you do. The audience was silent, listening. This year, I learned that help isn't weakness. That accepting support isn't failing. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you can't do it alone. Lena's voice strengthened. I learned this from my mother, who fought her own brain chemistry every day to keep me safe. From my best friend, who shared her sandwich without hesitation. And from her father, who showed up when he could have just written a check and walked away. Daniel felt Ruth's hand find his, squeezed gently. To everyone graduating today, you've been given so much. Education. Opportunity. Advantages. Don't waste them trying to prove you don't need help. Don't waste them pretending you did it all alone. The greatest thing you can do with privilege is use it to make sure someone else gets a chance too. She stepped back from the podium. The auditorium erupted in applause. Emily was the first to her feet, cheering loudly. Then Ruth. Then Daniel. Then the entire graduating class. Lena walked off the stage, diploma in hand, and made her way to where they waited. Ruth pulled her daughter into a fierce hug. "I'm so proud of you, baby. You made this possible, Mom. You kept me curious even when everything else was falling apart." Daniel cleared his throat. "Congratulations, Lena. Northwestern is lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have all of you," Lena corrected. She turned to Emily. "Especially you. You saved me." "We saved each other," Emily said firmly. And watching them, these two girls who had found each other across impossible divides and changed each other's lives, Daniel understood something fundamental: he hadn't rescued Lena. He'd shown up when she needed someone to stay. Thank you for watching Lena and Emily's journey. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button, and subscribe. It helps us share more stories about the power of presence, the importance of showing up, and the truth that real change happens when we choose connection over convenience. Share your thoughts with us in the comments.